Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Prophetic Trumpet. We are continuing now in the 8th week of the series, You Will Be Like God. Last week we spoke about digital ID and the implementation that was taking place in India and very subtly through Apple ID here in the United States. So what I want to do is I want to go a step further this week. We're going to take a look at an article. This is going to be a very brief teaching, but we want to take a look at an article from the Gateway Pundit about the failed state of Somalia and how it applies to what it is that we're dealing with and how it applies to the Mark of the Beast system. So let's get started here. The failed state of Somalia is set to assume the presidency of the United Nations Security Council in January. This is reading directly from this article from the Gateway Pundit in December of 25. Despite being in a largely ceremonial role, it has nonetheless been hailed by diplomats as a major milestone within the country's international standing. For 1 month, Somalia will be tasked with the steering of the Council's routine business, including setting meeting agendas, chairing sessions, and overseeing debates on global peace and security. Because, wow, if you want to talk about a culture and a people that are the authority on global peace and security, it's them, right? So while the presidency carries no real executive power, it does allow the holder to play out hosting to discussions on the world's most entrenched conflicts. Despite its brief stint, Somalia has expected to highlight familiar United Nation priorities such as peacekeeping operations, counter-terrorism initiatives, regional instability, I think they know a little bit about that, and humanitarian crisis linked to war and climate shocks like drought. Many Americans are calling on the United States to leave the United Nations after Somalia will be made president of the United Nations Security Council on January 1st of this year. A country that can't even maintain its own security will be president of a worldwide security. Somalia has struggled with instability since the collapse of the central government way back in 1991, spending decades marked by civil war, weak institutions, and fragmented authority. The federal government of Mogadishu continues to rely heavily on international assistance, including African Union forces, to combat Al-Qaeda-linked military groups, Al-Shabaab, which carries out regular attacks. Meanwhile, there has been growing scrutiny on America's Somali population amid increasing evidence that they have been linked and involved with massive security, social security fraud, and non-government GMO money laundering campaigns. Federal prosecutions have started to take place, and the prosecutors in Minnesota recently uncovered an industrial-scale fraud targeting run, federally funded social programs. The investigations, which have investigated throughout 2025, center on the $250 million Feeding Our Future, how aptly named, pandemic meal scandal, alongside massive schemes involving autism therapy and housing stability services. Over 90 individuals have been charged so far, including 82 Somali Americans who have already been convicted. I bring this up. What does this have to do with digital ID? What does this have to do with the "you will be like God" scenario? I want you to notice how just 2 years ago, it's not even been 2 years ago, this was going on under our noses. And everybody turned a blind eye. And they have ignored the biblical prophecy aspect. Somehow, a massive surgency of Muslim operatives have claimed control of resources and power on a global level. Now granted, the articles from the Gateway Pundit states that this is no real executive power was the direct quote. But I want you to see here how it was just given. And why was it given? What was the prerogative? Maybe there was a luring from the 250 million, perhaps, of the Feeding Our Future campaign. Don't be fooled. Do not be fooled. It's all a biblical setting of the stage to come for prophecy to be revealed. I have revealed to you in this ministry, and I am one of the only few that is preaching this and teaching this. This world will be divided into 10 regions. 10 regions, and then it will fall to one. That's Revelation 13, that's Revelation 16. It will go from 10 to 1. And those nations will eventually become Islamic strongholds, including these United States. This is biblical prophecy. We can't stop it, but we can slow it down. Pray to the Lord. Be light to the world. Be salt to the earth. Be bold. Be countercultural. That's what Jesus was. I want to thank you for joining us for this week's Prophetic Trumpet. It's been brief and it's been heavy. We hope you have the courage to join us next week as we continue on our series. Like, share the message, hit the subscription button, hit the notification button, and we will see you next week. May the Lord give you favor.